To begin your combo, let's start by discarding the Adusted Gold here. We're going to use that in order to search our Dead End Prisoner, which is how we're going to actually start our combo line here. By normal summoning Dead End Prisoner, we can activate the effect, sending a hero monster from our deck to the graveyard. We're going to send Sinister Necron. Now we can activate the graveyard effect of our Sinister Necron, which is going to allow us to summon a hero from our deck. We're going to summon another copy of Adusted Gold, which is a Light Fiend, meaning we can link it off for Fiend Smith's Requiem. From here, we're going to activate the effect of Fiend Smith's Requiem to, of course, summon a Fiend Smith monster from our deck. Let's grab Lacrima the Crimson Tears, because when special summoned, she can then send the Engraver from our deck to the graveyard. Alright, now from here we can use the Engraver effect to revive itself by shuffling back one of our monsters. I would recommend leaving the Adusted Gold if possible. Now from here we can use the Leak Summon, or rather Leak Summon into the sequence by using Lacrima and Engraver. Now let's activate the sequence effect, shuffling back our materials. You can either go for the Desiree, or if you want to, the Caesar here. Your choice. But either way, we're going to go ahead and summon right over here. And then we can actually link off the Dead End Prisoner with the sequence that's still on board in order to summon Predaplant, Vert, Anaconda. Alright, now let's go ahead and equip the sequence to the Desiree, since we chose to summon that. And then now we can activate the Vert Anaconda second effect, paying 2,000, to then copy the effect of Fusion Destiny. Fusion Destiny will allow us to summon the Phoenix Enforcer using Vicious Claw and Draw Hand. And there we have it. We got our two Desiree negates, our Phoenix Enforcer pop, Draw Hand, Draw One, and then the Vicious Claw pop. Going into our first replay here, this is going to be a going second game against Bystial. So this deck overall plays very similarly to other sort of Fiend Smith control decks, or Bystial control decks, whichever you want to call them, that you've probably seen in the meta before. Of course, the main difference is this hero engine we're playing. This build in particular, which I found to be fairly popular on Untapped, well, relatively popular, and also had a pretty high win rate, also features a tuner and synchro package, with the tuners being Fabled Raven, searchable off of the Fiendsmith's Tract, as well as Vision Resonator, as well, and of course a single copy of Crimson Gaia. Now in this game here, we were able to use Ash Blossom and Droll to stop our opponent from going into Bystial plays. We're going to try to go for a Adusted Gold to full combo ourselves, but Ash Blossom's going to put a stop to that. Thankfully, we top-decked Fusion Destiny, and because we're in a simplified game state, the Destiny Hero Phoenix Enforcer is going to go a very long way here. We can use it to not only, of course, battle over Ice Bystial, but we can start destroying cards during our opponent's next turn. Also helps that we have Ash Blossom to stop them from extending into more plays as well. Draw Hand can summon itself during the standby phase. I don't like drawing a card if it's the opponent's turn though, mostly because I don't want to give them more plays, unless I have a lot of hand traps in hand. Here's another going second game against Bystial, this time the Fiend Smith variant. Oh no, this is actually going first game, I'm sorry, I have it mislabeled here. We're going to lead with a Adusted Gold in order to add Dead End Prisoner. Even though I already have a copy in hand, this is not only a bit of deck thinning, but moreover, it'll also get me another Light Fiend in my graveyard, which is very important. The evil hero Vicious Claw can destroy an additional card, but only if you have a card in your graveyard that mentions Dark Fusion. That's why it's good to leave a copy of Adusted Gold in your graveyard, if at all possible. But yeah, it's pretty much going to be the same thing that we did in the turn 1 combo line from here. Adusted Gold is going to link off into Fiendsmith's Requiem, which will of course summon Lacrima the Crimson Tears, dumping the Engraver and continuing the combo line. This is a hand where I would have really liked to have opened the Vision Resonator as well, or maybe even the Fabled Raven. Fabled Raven seems like a pretty random inclusion, but again, it can be searched off Fiendsmith's Tract, and if you open cards like Fabled Lurie or Sinister Necrom, then it's actually really good to tract for Fabled Raven, because then you can discard those cards, not only setting up your engine, but also a tuner that can then let you go into something like a Baron de Fleur or even the fabled level 10 Synchro Monster, which we are playing in this build. Alright, so there's our pretty typical end board of Desiree plus Phoenix Enforcer. It's not quite as powerful as certain other decks' end boards, however I will say that it is often enough to get the job done. Alright, our Fiendsmith Ryzeal opponent's going to lead with Normal Summon Lacrima, dumping Graver in order to go into the Fiendsmith's Requiem. Now, because they led with Normal Summon Lacrima, I'm reasonably confident they're not going to have actual Ryzeal plays here. Unless they go like Special Summon Ice Ryzeal and then summon another Ryzeal extender, that would be what they would have to do, but also that would have meant they valued Normaling Lacrima over Normaling Ice Ryzeal, which might be the case, but generally speaking, I think you would want to Normal Summon Ice Ryzeal. Sure enough, looks like they're just going to make a Typhoon here. And then we're going to use Phoenix Enforcer to simply destroy it before it can do any actual damage. Vicious Claws gets to summon here, and also if my opponent had another card on the field to destroy, Vicious Claws would be able to destroy it here. That's why we use Vicious Claws, and then Draw Hand we use just because it summons itself back. And again, if you want to, you can get the draw for both players as well. But like I mentioned as well, I really don't like doing that unless I have like a lot of hand traps in hand. Alright, here's a going first game, also against Ryzeal. Played against a lot of Ryzeal in this session. This time we opened Vision Resonator as well as one of our Bystial monsters, so might be able to get some synchro plays in here. Gonna go for the Fiendsmith's Requiem though, leading with Normal Summon Fabled Lurie, Lacrima Send Engraver. Pretty much just gonna set up some pretty typical Fiendsmith stuff here. One thing I will say about this build is, because we're playing so many Synchro monsters, we don't have a ton of space in the extra deck, which is a bit unfortunate. I don't actually think we're even playing Happaloosa, now that I think about it. So I was kind of thinking about going into it here, but I mean, Desiree would have worked as well. Either way, our opponent had the Veiler for the sequence, and at the very least, we can banish that Veiler to summon Baldrake. Then, of course, Special Vision Resonator going into our Excel Stardust. We go Excel Stardust, and then Vision Resonator. I'm not worried about Vision Resonator getting hit with the Ash Blossom, because I'm just searching Crimson Gaia, which doesn't have a target anyway. Could play two of each Crimson Gaia and Vision Resonator to make them each have another search target, but it's getting a little clunky at that point. So here I'm going to go for Dissipator, Special Summon my opponent's Veiler, and then link it off with my Fiendsmith sequence in order to make the Predaplant Vert Anaconda, and then still end on DPE as well as the Dissipator. It is worth noting, though, that there aren't any other banished cards, so that is a little bit awkward for the Dissipator, especially because my opponent does have an Imperm for the Vert Anaconda effect. Draw phase, I'm going to activate Lacrima the Crimson Tears. Opponent actually is going to go for a Max C here. And I should have considered this during standby phase because I am holding the Joel and Lockbird in my hand. It would have definitely been better. I would have been able to Joel my opponent, and they would have been able to add anything. But thankfully, it seems like they're just having to go for 7th Ascension anyway. Or maybe they didn't have to and they just chose to. Either way, we're going to fire off Joel and Lockbird. They're going to try to call by it, but Joel and Lockbird isn't once per turn for some reason, so we can just chain another copy. This causes the Joel and Lockbird effect to resolve, meaning that even though the first copy has been called by, they still can't add any cards this turn. As they go to end their main phase, we're going to use Requiem to summon Lacrima, and then Lacrima effect to, well, doesn't matter. They're just going to concede anyway. And finally, we have one last game against Ryzeal yet again. This time, however, we don't open a way to go into any Fiendsmith cards. So that is kind of a bit of a drawback for the Bystial Fiendsmith control decks if you're not playing Primite or another engine like Hero like we are in this build, is that you often open hands where you don't really have that many turn 1 plays. However, here we can still Magnum Hut plus Regained in order to get an extra draw. I was hoping they would throw out a hand trap that was a monster here. Instead they have Imperm to negate the Bystial Magnum Hut search, so triple attack won't be live here. But we still get the draw, and it actually gets us Fabled Lurie, which is really cool. So now we can actually go for plays here. We can not only call by our opponent's Fuelos, but now we can triple attack for the hand rip as well. An absolutely beautiful turn 1. Alright, here's the triple attack. Let's see what they're working with. and what they won't be soon. Putting back Ice Bystial, they have Ghost Ogre and Crossout. I'm actually not really concerned about Ghost Ogre if they do decide to use it. There's not really anything in the Fiendsmith line that can really be I mean, you can Ghost Ogre stuff like, you know, Lacrima right here, right? However, I still have the Magnum Hut on board, meaning that I can still dump Engraver, summon it back, and go into sequence, right? Now I know my opponent's only card in hand is Crossout, and I don't really care about that. Even if my opponent had waited with the Ghost Ogre, the only other point they really would have been able to use it is against sequence, which also would not have mattered at all. I think my opponent should have held Ghost Ogre. They could have potentially popped my Desiree when I go to use it on my turn. But they're just going to concede first anyway. So, again, doesn't really matter that much. And there we go. There's our games. Here is the build. I definitely consider this to be a rogue level deck. And if I'm going to be fully honest, I think this is actually slightly weaker than a regular Bystial Fiendsmith control deck, which I'd consider to be about tier 3. But that said, I really like the Synchro Twist, and you know me, I love Synchro Summons. Plus, I like the Hero Twist as well. I know MBT sort of popularized, or I don't know if invented a build like this, actually. I'm not super sure off the top of my head, but this build with the Fabled Raven and the Vision Resonator I found on Untapped, like I said, so I decided to go ahead and try it out, and as mentioned, I had a lot of fun playing it. We have 13 starters, 6 of them are Hero, which let us go into Desiree plus DPE. 7 of them are Fiendsmith, which only goes into the Fiendsmith stuff, but is still definitely something you want to see on turn 1. So, like I said, your turn 1 boards are going to be weaker than some other decks, but this build has a lot of flexibility to it, and in that regard, I think is, of course, still very, very good. Like I said, rogue level deck, but I would consider this upper rogue. I think you could do some serious laddering with this if you were so inclined to. And of course we have a ton of room for hand traps, although not quite as much as a regular like Bystial Fiendsmith control deck, which I will say is kind of another drawback of this. We're going to go over this in the pros and cons section here in a moment. So, by the way, let me know if you like continuing this format with commentary. I know people weren't feeling the commentary-less versions of these videos as much, but I still really like the formatting that I put together here, so if you want to see this style more with the commentary like I'm doing now, definitely feel free to let me know in the comments below. Appreciate all the feedback that I've been getting through the course of trying out these new uploads here. Alright, so there is the list. And as mentioned, here are the pros and cons. Like other Bystial control decks, a lot of flexibility. Opponent likely won't know really when to stop you because you're such a unique build. And this is just a really cool deck. But I will say, with the lack of extra deck space for other engines, as well as, of course, again, your extra deck, it really is probably just better to play a traditional Bystial control deck. But thanks for watching. Let's go and move now to our outro. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.